What's up? JTVJP in the house. So I got a friend that just came out here and we hung out a couple of times, maybe once, twice, maybe I'm not sure. But anyway, I got a message from him, and he asked me, to make some series about how to pick up women in Japan. And I already told him I made some, it's kind of general, but whatever. But it still works because, I explained it. So what I'll do is I'll just make another video about how to pick up women and stuff like that. But it's not one of those like pick up artist things where you just get a girl to do whatever. Because in Japan, like I said, these women, they're players too. They have an objective, and for the most part, they're gonna always win. Okay, because they're in their own country. Some end up getting the guys they want. Guys, the things they want to do. The guys are doing the things that the women want the guys to do for them and stuff like that. So like I said, when you come to Japan, you have to have an agenda. You have to always know what you want to do, because the minute you don't know what you want to do, you're going to get messed over out here by whatever. And I'm not saying that it's wrong for the girls to dog you out or work or whatever, dog you out. People are going to protect themselves first, and they're going to be out for their own interests. So it's like when you find a job, when you go look for a job, some people just take any job because they need the money and stuff like that, or for whatever other reason and stuff, for whatever reason. But some people do negotiate. One friend, he had a job, and he has some other jobs too, and he I guess the job where he was, that they wanted him to do first part-time, and as part-time he was making a lot of money. And I guess after a while they were like, well, we'd rather have him full-time, because they have him full-time, then they'll pay him less, because he was able to negotiate more money to for his part-time and stuff like that, because the work he did put in was good and stuff. So then we talked, and I told him again, do the same thing, negotiate. Don't worry about what they're gonna say, just listen to them, then negotiate, and then tell them why you're valuable and stuff like that. And he did, and then he ended up making more money after taxes than other people that's doing the same job. So if he's able to negotiate, then he can. And there are a lot of people out here who do negotiate their jobs, their pay, or they create a job where they can basically, like one of my friends told me, they asked him to do something, and instead of him guessing and whatever the money they have, and trying to put an idea together, he just asked him, what's your budget like, and they tell him the budget, and then he makes whatever it is based on whatever they can pay him. So I just want to get that out of the way. If you come out here and the girls talk to you, the women talk to you and stuff like that, like I said, they have an agenda. More than likely you will get played. And a lot of guys have to learn the hard way, because they don't really know how to associate with women in other countries and things like that. And if they come over here with these predetermined thoughts in their minds, and they're going to really get screwed, because I believe a lot of those books are written by guys who don't really have the experience or things like that with these women to actually tell them straight up, the guy straight up, well, this kind of girl you find and this and that, and then when you do get this girl, and if you do marry her, then this is how it's going to change, and it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that, and I've mentioned that to a lot of friends, and they don't believe me, and then it happens, and getting divorced, and I'm like, well, hey, I'm devastated, and I'm like, well, would you even, if she was a black woman, would you marry her? If she was acting the same? No. And I said, well, okay, there you go. You fantasized in your head, and you created a situation in your head that wasn't real in real life. So hey, stuff like that's going to happen. But anyway, let me start on this real quick. When you come to Japan, if you want a girl, basically there are a lot of women out here. You go to the big cities and stuff like that. When you go to small cities, there are a lot of women too. Just like in Japan, just like in every other country, I believe that the women are kind of dissatisfied with the men for whatever reasons. I think it's because of technology and stuff starting to give women more access to leverage, power, money. You know, you can be stay smart. They can go online, make an app, or make some kind of business, whatever, make $1 million or whatever. And what do they need a boyfriend for? You know, especially if he's not making as much money as she does, as she is. You know, he might have a company job, but you know, she's making $10,000 a month. You know, just spending a couple of hours at her computer desk. You know, so you got those things also. But at the same time, you know, women do need affection, want to have fun and stuff, so they go out and seek these guys. And for them to seek a guy in their own country means that they're going to be, how can I say, limited by the culture and by the standards of what the men have put in place for all these years. But all of that stuff is just crumbling now. And instead of doing that, she's like, well, you know, I got money, I'm not really interested in kids or anything, so let me travel. So she go out, travel, meet other guys in other countries that are bigger, more stronger, you know, muscular. They can have fun, she can spend her money, no strings attached, you know, and have fun with them, and then bounce. You know, some might pay the guy, you know, some won't. Some might fall in love with the guy or whatever, you know, or he just might, you know, she just might keep him around as someone to play with, whatever. And she'll come and see him, you know, I'm sure she'll treat him good and stuff, and he's smart, you know. He'll get money. Like this one girl I know, I think I told y'all the story about it, but you know, she went to the States, met some guy that she hadn't seen in a long time, and when she met him, realized it wasn't the same, but you know, he still got 2 G's out of her, you know, and stuff like that, you know. And it's just really interesting. But here, let me start again. I said that 2 minutes ago. But anyway, when you come to Japan, though, what you have to realize is that a lot of women here are lonely, you know, and they are always looking for something to do, because Japan is not like the United States, where they're constantly pushing, how can I say that, things on you to do, and they're cheap, you know, and stuff like that. In Japan, a lot of things out here you gotta pay, you know, so they make new clubs and stuff. You get 500 yen to get in, $5 to get in, and you know, girls gonna come out and stuff like that, play hip-hop music, whatever, you know. But yeah, a lot of women out here are lonely. When you're walking down the street, you know, you see someone, you know, what you have to do is you have to relax and just start speaking and say hi to the women. Some will respond, some won't, you know, and it's okay, because when you're talking to a woman, you only have, like a lot of guys, they try to create the whole scenario in their heads. They're gonna say this, the woman gonna say that. They're gonna do this, the woman gonna do that. They're gonna suggest this, and the woman gonna respond like that. And it's all controlled in your head, but you don't know what she's gonna do. So to make everything easier for you, the only thing that you have to do is just know what you want to say, and then prepare to answer in whatever way that you want her to react, that's going to convince her to do what you want, And so you have to be able to answer those ways. You're walking down the street, and the best thing to do if you want to talk to a lot of women, a lot of guys, you know, talk to them by themselves. If I were you, I would talk to groups of women. And the reason I say that is because you get a chance to talk to a lot of women at one time, you know, because in a group of women, you know, there's going to at least be one that's going to like you, you know. And also, you might even have a chance to get some students out of it, you know, 2 or 3 of them, or all of them, you know, and get money. You know, I'm sure money is more important than, you know, having, you know, a girlfriend and stuff like that, right? So that can happen, you know. So it's better to talk to them. If you talk to one girl, you know, the best thing to do is say, hey, how you doing? What's your name? What you doing? Hey, let's hang out. You know, and when you're saying let's hang out, well, what you have to do is you just can't say let's hang out. What you want to do? Oh, I don't know. You can't do that. You always have to have some place to go. Like one guy told me, he was straight up, and it was true. He said, hey, when you meet these women, you know, you need to make a plan to do this, do that. And I'm like, I ain't doing that stuff, you know. But really, he's right. You really need to do that, because out here there really isn't much that these women don't do. They went to all the restaurants in the city. They probably went to every last one of them. They've been to every last department store. They got their hair cut or know every beautician. They know where all the clothes are, where all the shoes are, all the fashions, jewelry, shampoos, women's wear. I'm sure a lot of them, go to the men's wear also. Everything you can think of, they probably already done. So really, you really don't have to worry about, surprising them. You're not going to surprise these women out here. Now you can take them someplace and they're going to act surprised. And I'm spilling a lot of game I shouldn't be. Whatever. I'm just letting y'all know. But anyway, if they act surprised because you took them to some place, more than likely you took them to some place where they've probably been 1,000 times with their friends, or a bunch of times with their friends, because they're always bouncing. In Japan, when you see girls, when they walk in the shopping areas, they'll walk around for an hour or two and then go sit in a cafe, eat tea and drink coffee for 2 hours, and then go back out for another 30 minutes, go back into another place and out for 30 minutes, and go back into another place, because there's really nothing that they can actually do, a girl and a girl, so other than just doing those things, or sitting in the house playing video games. But a lot of people like they to get out, especially when it's sunny outside. And so you really don't have to think like that, just know what you want to do and then say, hey, let's do this. And that's probably the best way. Now when you're talking to them, walk up and say, how you doing? And a lot of them are going to play stupid, like they can't speak English. A lot of them will talk to you, a lot of them won't. It just depends on you, how you dress, and how they are at that moment. Because like I went to this one club with a friend, and he was talking, he met one friend, some girl, and they all met up in Osaka, and then he didn't call me, but he invited people to come out, but eventually he asked me to come out, so I said cool. So it was me, him, and 3 girls. One of the girls was fine, Japanese girl, she was bad. The other 2 friends were cool and stuff. One couldn't speak English, one did speak English, and the bad one, she said she couldn't speak English, so my friend was trying to mac to her, but she's like, and all this stuff, Then we all end up going to the club, eventually going to the club afterwards, and she got a little drunk and stuff, and then she saw some white dude she liked and started speaking fluent English. My friend was like, oh my God. And he was really shocked, and I just laughed. I said, that's just how it is. I said, at that time she just wasn't interested in you, and that's okay. I mean, she was fine, and she did have that body and that flavor and the attitude and stuff that you just want to be with her. But at that time she wasn't interested in him. So I just told him don't worry about it, because he is the type of guy that gets a lot of women anyway, but I guess some guys just get I wouldn't say overwhelmed, but they're just shocked when someone, I wouldn't say reject them, but just the timing. Because if it would have been a different scene, instead of going to the club and if she wasn't with her friends, it was just probably them too, then I'm sure she would have spoken English, and probably could have, whatever happens. So when you talk to these girls, just talk to them. You just gotta talk to them, and don't worry about all that other stuff. Don't be shy about anything, and just talk, just like you're talking to your homies or some girl in the States, And what it is though about Japan, and it really does matter where you are, and it really does matter what you look like, how tall she is, how tall you are, what you wearing, what she's wearing. Like the other day, me and a friend went to the club, and I got this watch, this gold black watch. I forgot the name of it, but it's a really nice, fashionable watch, a designer watch that my brother sent to me as a thank you. My youngest brother sent to me as a thank you gift, and then for some reason I just happened to go through my old bags and stuff and found a gold chain, Indian coin with the gold wreath around it or something like that, and then a gold chain and stuff. And I was like, whoa. So I just put it on and put on my basketball attire that I always wear, the red one that you guys usually see in my videos, and that I had that for years, but it's still good, so I still wear it. And I was in the club, and this one Japanese girl, she was fine. She's kind of short, but she was real fine. And in Japan, when they want to dance, they'll come and stand in front of you and start dancing and shaking their butts and back up into you and stuff. And she did that, but I was like, I didn't talk to her or anything, But maybe it was just because I was taller, just that much taller than her, and she could have been thinking like, oh my God, that tall guy, if he can handle me, oh my God, what would he do to my body, And they get all excited, thinking about whatever wild passion images they got in their mind. But there was another guy that was taller than me and stuff, so I don't know. I have no idea, but maybe it was because of the jewelry I had on, and then I had a red and white basketball attire with my blue shoes on, blue Nikes on, and just made it look like I was a basketball player. I guess, I have no idea. But all of that stuff does matter and stuff. But when you're picking up women out here in Japan, though, the best thing to do is just talk to the ones who are staring at you. Don't start, you seriously staring, walk and say, hey, how you doing? You got nice eyes, I like them. And just talk in English. And she said, do you speak Japanese? Then, if you do know some Japanese, then you try. One of my friends, he met one girl, she was real fine too. And she just straight said, you speak Japanese? He was like, nope. And she was like, turned around and walked away, and I guess that's because she didn't speak any English, or I guess she just didn't want to waste any time with the guys who don't speak her language, So I was like, ooh, wow. And that was the first time. But yeah, you just really have to get out. A lot of guys, what they do is they go to clubs and they pick up women and stuff in the club. And the other day, last night, we met these two white guys, one from Scotland and one from Australia, and they had just got into Osaka from Tokyo in the morning, and they were like, oh, clubs to go to and everything. And they was like, yeah, we want to go to the club and talk to some girls and stuff and blah blah blah, and they tell me, oh, what's the sweet move, not sweet moves, but what's some smooth moves and stuff we can get the girls with, and blah blah blah. And I just started laughing. I said, what time did you get to Osaka? And eventually, today I'm like, what time? And eventually, I guess they must have been drunk or something, I have no idea. They said the time and stuff, and I said, okay, so from the time you got here, let's say about 11 o'clock, I think it was 11 in the morning to now, how many women did you pass by? And they said, oh, a whole bunch of them. And I said, well, how many women did you talk to? And they said, no. And I go, oh, there go your problem. And they was like, oh, man, we didn't think about that. I said, yeah, you guys passing up all these women on the streets, and then you're looking for a club so you can go at night to go find a woman when you passed up thousands of women and stuff. Like, oh, well, I didn't think about that. So those things do happen and stuff, and you need to be aware of that, okay? Actually, picking up women out here in Japan really isn't difficult. A lot of people say up in Tokyo it's kind of difficult because it's crowded and people are busy. But when people are busy, it's kind of a bad time to try to talk to people. The best places to pick up women would be Starbucks, and we got another name for it, but it's Starbucks and stuff. And that's one of the best places. Or you go to a pub or a bar and things like that. And you got these videos talking about these gaijin hunters and stuff like that. And I saw one video, one guy, he actually said something that was really intellectual, or that was really smart. He said, hey, if you got a gaijin hunter after you, then talk to her and be with her, because more than likely you're going to get what you want from her, instead of trying to find these women who aren't gaijin hunters and not get anything. And so you might as well just go on and both of you guys satisfy each other's thirst and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that was a nice video. I forgot who said it. It was somebody, I forget, I don't know his name, but somebody sent it to me and I walked with it. I guess he made the video. He was in Japan and he made a video. I think it's someplace in the Caribbeans or something like that. But anyway, really good time. And anyway, I was like, that was a really cool video. But yeah, gaijin hunters, don't worry about the guy. I mean, if a woman come up to you and start talking to you and then you trying to run away from her, then, what's the point of it, I don't understand it. You go to a bar, girl come and talk to you, and then just because she's talking to you in English, you're like, oh, she's a gaijin hunter. But if she spoke to you in Japanese, you'd be like, well, why are you talking to me in Japanese? Why don't you know some English? So, and then she'll turn around as well. If I talk to you in English, then you're going to think I'm a gaijin hunter. So, and so you want to talk to me, but I want to talk to you, so I'm just going to speak to you in Japanese. So forget it. If you can't speak in Japanese, then I'll go find somebody else who can speak Japanese. So I mean, it's just kind of weird, but basically, it's a lot of, and then some guys just say they don't like street pickup, but it's not necessarily street pickup. Where you just talk to every girl with an intention like that. You just walk, be yourself, and because you are there. And a lot of people want to say because you're a gaijin, but I don't even say that. Just because you're out in the street, you have lots of people looking at you. When people walk by, they're going to look. I mean, it's just a natural thing to look. When I walk down the street, I look at everybody, guys, girls, and some girls, they're real cute. When they walk by, I turn around and look. Some of them turn around and look, I turn around, they looking. Or they turn around, I'm looking, and it happened the other day. at this one bookstore I went to. I didn't go and talk to her, but I was just like, wow, and she was kind of tall, nice looking too. But those things happen. So it's not, because I'm a black guy, she's staring at me, or because I'm a white guy, she's staring at me, or I'm a gaijin, or this or that. No, it's because you're there. You're an object to be looked at. So that's why they stare at you. So try to keep it simple. And that's it. And maybe she was attracted to you. Attracted to you. So maybe that could have been it. But a lot of people, they don't like to. How can I say? Look at the obvious. It's like recently, kind of off. Yeah, it's kind of they don't really put themselves in a better light and stuff. So it's like they're like, oh well, how can I say that? Blah 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 blah. Let's see. Let's see. How can I say that? Oh, so recently, and it goes to what I'm going to say. What I just said. Recently, I put on my Facebook, I got a secret that you don't know. And some people ask me what it is. And I said, you ain't shit. And one of my friends was like, oh man, fuck you, that's fucked up. And what it is it's funny because only one person that I said that to said, no, I am somebody. I am not shit. I am somebody. And I was like, wow, you're the only one, because everybody else started laughing and stuff. But the whole thing is when I say you're not shit, it's not that you're a bad person or anything, but basically what it really means is that you don't think good of yourself, and that's the secret that I know, is that you don't think of yourself as somebody good, someone who deserves things, someone who's supposed to have these privileges, someone who's at an advantage. And you're on the earth, you're able to learn, read, whatever, so you're at an advantage and you deserve those things, period. Everyone should be rolling around in a nice car, married to the person that they want to be married to, having kids. Shouldn't be no war, so we should be at peace. But people, when I said, hey, I got a secret, you ain't shit, well, because people don't think of themselves as anyone, good, then they tend to not be good. Well, I deserve it, so I'm just gonna do it like that, because he ain't, she, it's not like she gonna talk to me anyway, so I'm just gonna walk over there and just act stupid. Hey girl, how you doing? What's your name? And then she run around, oh man, why that girl turn? She ain't nothing but a, then you start cussing the girls out and stuff, like, if you was in the States, you wouldn't do that. I would do it in the States too. Okay, well, you're doing it in the States, that's why you're alone. You come over here and you still acting stupid, so you're gonna be by yourself, and the only girl you're gonna get is someone who don't know you. They just desperate and stuff, or they thirsty, but after they get used to you, then they're gonna kick you to the curb, and you're gonna be lonely again. Like, oh, well, you always being negative. I ain't being negative, you don't want to be negative, so I don't even care, but it's not difficult, and like, it's like, some people like, well, just tell me, show me, let me see what you do. And I said, man, listen, I think of myself, I'm God, so when I'm walking down the street, I already know all these women, they are already thinking about stuff about me, because I'm a black man, my skin is dark, and when these women see that dark skin and they start thinking about chocolate and sex and all that, I already know what they're thinking, and whether they can do it or not based on their circumstances or financial status or their friends or their families and stuff, whether they could do it or not, then fine, I understand that, because I know some friends who white guys and stuff, and different black guys, that's messing with some women that have got money, and they can't, and their parents expecting to marry some guy that they want to choose, but they thinking their daughters are virgins or whatever, and their daughters out, messing with the bros or white guys or whoever, that she just getting her thing on, and they don't tell their parents, and their parents thinking one thing and they're thinking another thing. So it's how can I say, there's no way that I can show, because like I tell a lot of guys, I'm like, hey man, I don't know what it is about me, but I walk up to a girl and I just talk to them. Some might reject me, and some say I don't say reject, but the better word is bad timing, and some will do some things, some will say okay. Some girls walk over to me and smile, and I just smile, say hi, and turn around and walk away, because I'm busy or something like that, and it really does matter, the timing and stuff. But I think the most important thing is what you look like and how you carry yourself. And if you're eating right and doing right and stuff like that, and you got those vibes, going from your body to women, they're gonna feel it, And if you're speaking, if you have a deep voice, and they're like, hey, how you doing? You're like, I'm fine, how you doing? What's your name? And whatever. Reach out and give them a hug, reach out, and if they accept it, you can give them a hug. I've done all kinds of stuff. I think I told you in this one video a long time ago. Me and my brother was in front of the Apple store, and it was these two Japanese girls there, and one was just fine, just bad. Everything on her was bad. She was just beautiful. And it was two guys standing behind them, two white guys standing behind them, not too far off, but not too close, but not too far. So I turned to him and I just looked at her, and I said, wow, you're very beautiful. I said, excuse me. She said, yes. I said, wow, you're very beautiful. And she said, oh, thank you. And I said, I'm sorry. She said, well, I said, can I give you a hug? And she was like, all right. So she gave me a hug. And I'm thinking, like in Japan, they get really soft hugs. So when I went to embrace her, she embraced me and squeezed, and we held on for about a good maybe 30 seconds or whatever, almost a minute, and then I was like, wow. I said, can I get your number? She said, oh, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend, and I said, okay, I respect that. I said, okay, well, you have a good day. And she said, okay, and the light turned green, and they walked on. And one of the white guys said, oh my God, that was so cool. I've never seen anyone do that before. And I was like, oh, thanks. And of course, my brother, he trips and stuff. He didn't think it was impressive, but I don't care. You know how younger brothers are anyway. But like I said, I can show people, but just because I do it, and just because I do it, and other people, it works for me, doesn't mean that it's going to work for you, because I'm operating from my knowledge, from my body, my vibes, and stuff like that. My smile, my thick lips, my black skin, what I'm saying, my 50 or 40 or whatever, 52-year-old body, my little tubby, whatever, I'm doing it with those things, but if you wanted to jump in my body and then start macking to them, then, with your thoughts, but with my body, with your thoughts, then, it might not work, so it's not all about me trying to teach guys how to talk to women. You know how to talk. Just open your mouth and utter and use some type of syllables that they understand, But it's more or less like you should already know that it's natural for a man and a woman to be together, and sex is just a natural thing. Men come along, women come along when they got power and they convince people to participate in their activities and stuff. And then when these other people participate in their activities, then they break these rules down to the people. This is how I want you to act. If you don't act, then you're going to be punished, or if you want to stay or not, you got to get out. And so people just they just voluntarily participate in those types of they voluntarily participate in those type of activities. But for a person to really teach you, basically, because there's some about confidence. Confidence is belief. And just because you have a belief you can talk to a woman, don't mean, and you can get her, doesn't mean that you're going to do it. Now, and it's kind of stupid, because why would you need to believe that you can talk to a woman when you talk to women all the time? You're always walking the bus, somebody, you want to go by them, or you're walking by, somebody, you say, excuse me, and stuff like that. So you're already talking to women. It's just that your conversation, a lot of people just don't have a conversation that they want to say to the women or anything, And a lot of guys' conversations are very limited, hey, how you doing? Where you from? After that, it's like, what should I do? What would you like to do? Whatever they talk to, then they got these online guys telling them, to talk to them, and then, get a number, and then wait 3 years and call her and ask her to go to lunch or dinner with you, 5 years later. And then once you go to lunch, you spend $3 billion, and then after that, you think because you spent $3 billion that she's obligated to have sex with you, and then if she rejects you, and and then you get upset, and then you ask why, and eventually she said, well, the first time I met you was when I wanted to be with you that same day, but you didn't ask me. You weren't concerned about my feelings. You didn't ask me what did I want to do. You didn't ask me anything. It was all about you. And so I kind of felt sad. So, you just turned me off because you didn't think about me. You didn't ask me what I want to do, but you didn't get to the point, your point. Because women knows when a guy walk up and talk to them, they already know what a guy eventually wants, and it could be marriage, it can just be sex, it could be a girlfriend, it could be a partnership, it could just be a conversation for that 30 seconds, but the guys don't necessarily tell. They like scheming and driving their way into whatever they want to do, but it's not like these guys are meeting virgins and stuff like that, or they're meeting women who haven't dated or don't know about the dating scene, because a lot of these guys, they talk like these women are stupid, like you're the first and only man that ever spoke to them. So, it's just really interesting and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Like I said, you just have to know what you want to do, and then, at the same time, say, hey, hey, let's do something. What do you want to do? And she's like, what do you want to do? And then you tell her straight out, hey, I want to be with you. I just want to go some places, the two of us, and hang out. And she's like, oh, and then, before she answers, just say, hey, what do you want to do? And then she said, oh, well, I just, want to go to the bar and talk, then okay, then go to the bar and talk and stuff like that and do that, and if she liked to drinking usually release a lot of hormones in a person and stuff like that, because they lose control in their glands and whatever, and the hormones release, and then eventually she might get super horny or whatever, and then start grabbing on you, kissing on you and stuff like that, and touching you. And then of course the guy, he's not used to women those guys call it aggressive women. I just call it natural women, reaching out and touching you, and they get scared, oh my god, you're weird, and they run off. So it's I don't know, it's just really interesting, because I've asked a lot of guys too. I said, these guys go up and talk to a woman say no, and that's okay. Well, if a woman walks to you and say, oh my god, you're tall and you got a nice body and everything, I just want you to go to my house and just give it to me because I want to make love to you or whatever, I want to have sex with you, or be a little more straightforward and like, hey, I want to bang you out and stuff and beat you, I want you to beat me up, beat mine up, with yours or whatever, and a lot of guys really get scared, so the whole thing is, think about it. If a woman come to you and start talking like that, how you're going to feel, how you're going to receive it. And if you're the type of person, I don't know, then right then and there is telling you that when you go out and you talk to women, you're going to have problems, okay? Because you're one-sided. Your view is one-sided. You're the only one that wants to be the aggressor, and you don't want her. You don't want any aggressive women. You just want these women that's like that just lay there and do nothing while you're doing all the work and she enjoying everything, and you get and then those women, you're satisfying, and they get up, you fall asleep, and they leave and go find someone else, a couple hours later, and they been with somebody else. They're like, well, she liked it. Well, you didn't give her a chance to, do what she wanted to do, so she still have all this energy. So of course she's gonna go out and do whatever it is that she wants to do. You got a lot of energy. You got to get rid of that energy. You got to move. Moving burns energy. Moving creates those type of reactions and stuff like that. And a lot of people really don't understand it. So first thing is, when you go out and you talk to a woman, first thing you need to ask yourself is this: if a woman walks over to me and grabs my butt, or touch your chest, or grab your penis, or touch your face, or just walk and touch your hair and just kiss you, then how you gonna feel? And if you say, well, she violated me, or she didn't ask my permission to talk to me, or she's weird and strange, or I think she had AIDS or STD or whatever, then right there is telling you you really are mentally and you're not psychologically prepared to go out and talk to women on the street, because you're going to run into a lot of women who got to fake that they're not aggressive, because they know the guys are the ones who are really scared and stuff like that. So and it's, what is that? Anyway, oh shit. That's the right here, sunroof. Okay. And so these women, they can't, because of the stigmas that you guys put on them, which a lot of women shaking that stuff off now. And they're like, walk up to you and say, hey, I like it. This is what I want you now. And if you got acting all stupid, they like, you ain't no man, and walk off and find somebody else. And so if you have those things, then right there is telling you shouldn't even be out trying to talk to a woman or anything, and don't even think about trying to pick up women on these sites and stuff, because there's no telling what kind of woman you're going to get. Basically, what you need to do is just go and just accept the fact that, hey, these women, they know their bodies, the way they move in and stuff is just natural, and a lot of they got dreams just like you. God didn't make man to be the charge of anything. That's something that man wrote in the Bible. Whoever the person who got the most power is going to be the one that's ruling, and that's basically it. And it just boils down to that. Now, if you're the type of guy that don't mind women being aggressive and stuff like that, because I know some friends come out here and they got these, especially when they're in the English classes, and they got these, or they go to bars and they got these women that come straight up to them and say, hey, I like you, I want you. Like this one lady, she begged me for a year to have sex with her and stuff, and I was like, no. Eventually after a year, I'm like, okay, fine, but you get those kind of women, and those are the ones that tend to be aggressive, usually tend to be the ones who may be successful, especially if they if they had a chance to pursue what they want to, and they don't have anything really blocking them. So those would be the independent women out in the world, and the guy saying, well, just because she's independent, I don't want an independent woman. What you want? A dependent woman, a woman who got a boyfriend already, who got a husband already. What do you want? Because I thought you do want a single woman, and single means independent, right? If a woman making her own money, then she making more than you. So what? You go be with her, have fun and enjoy things and learn from her, and you trade information, and make your own money. But that really seems to be the problem. Then some guys, I talk to, like, well, I know how to talk to women, but, well, there's no but if you know how to talk to women, just go and talk to them. And they say, well, ha, and I'm like, ain't no ha. I mean, think about what you're saying. You know how to talk to women, but you don't have problems talking to women, but you can't get women. You've had many girlfriends, but Japan is a new territory, or Korea is a new territory, or this other state is another territory, there's another country. And I'm like, they still women, they still do the same thing the women in the States do. You just got the best thing to do is just walk up to I'll tell you what, if you guys really want to know how to to women and stuff, you go and ask a woman. You go and ask a woman. You walk down the street and say, hey, you see that girl right there, I like her, what do you think? And she goes, I see, blah, 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 blah. She'll tell you what she think about the girl and stuff, and then if then you're like, oh, what about this girl, what about that girl? Man, if she's giving you ideas, that's the one you need to keep close to you, because she knows her stuff. But anyway, I'm going to stop here. Teach you how to talk to women. Yeah, okay. You already know how to talk, so you want to learn how to talk to a woman. So you find a woman, you open your mouth and you say hi, and if she responds, that's communication right there, and that's good enough. If you want marriage, then just straight ask them, hey, I like you, I want to marry you, or will you marry me? You'd be surprised, some women will say yeah. You'd be surprised, because they'll take that chance, and but if it don't work out, then I'm sure they taking a chance because they confident to know that if it doesn't work, they did well before they met you, they're gonna do well after they meet you. So that's about it. But yeah, just are you basically when you go out and talk to them are the only two things you need to know: what you want to say, and then be prepared to be able to respond to any question that they ask. And here's a prime example in Nagoya. I said this a bunch of times, but this is the one that really stands out. And these women are always coming up there. I think all of them are rich and stuff. And I was always serving them, drinks and stuff. They never spoke to me. You want to say, here are your drinks, thank you very much. Hey, how you doing? They just ignored me and stuff. I'm like, all right, fine. I don't care. And one of the girls, after about a few months or maybe almost a year, I think, and she came over to me and said, hey, I have a problem with these white guys. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And she said, well, they always come up and asking me to have sex with them and stuff like that, And I'm like, so what's wrong with that? You're a woman, right? And she said, yeah, but I just don't like the way they ask. And I'm like, well, people don't, what do you want them to do? Come up to you and say, oh, excuse me, I want to ask you I want to tell you that I want to have sex with you, but, I don't want to offend you, so what tone can I use to say these words, I want to have sex with you? And when I said that, she kind of laughed and stuff. Oh, okay, now I understand what you mean. And I said, basically, if they do that, then fine. And she said, yeah, but they asked me to do this and they want me to do that. And I said, well, what do you say to them? She's like, I just turn the F off and stuff. And I'm like, well, why? I said, why don't you, instead of, cursing them out and stuff, just say, okay, I'll do those things for you, but how many times can you make me come? What can you do to this? Can you do this? Can you do that? How many times are you going to be able to come? Because I like a guy that comes 3 or 4 times, and this and that. And, and you ask him some of those questions. And so, like, a few weeks later, she came and she was laughing. And she was like, and I was like, she said, oh, Ralph, how you doing? And I'm like, kind of like, okay. Because in between that, I saw her and she didn't speak to me again. And I guess something happened and she came and she was laughing. She said, hey, Ralph, what you told me to do, I did it. And the guy was like, he's got all mad and said, oh my God, you're sick, you're crazy, you're a bee, get the fuck out of my face and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. And she said, oh my God, I'm going to use that now from now on and stuff. And I was like, yeah. I said, a lot of these guys are just doing it because I guess because they really don't understand the natural but the natural interaction between men and women. And it don't matter if you're black, white, tall, short, whatever. All you got to do is just make someone comfortable, and anything can happen. You make the woman comfortable, she makes you comfortable, and you guys, sex and consensual sex will happen regardless of, what her family say, what status she's in, or whatever, because that's just how communication is, and being relaxed around someone is, It's like, I talk to other women, and I know what they mean when they say that. I was like, oh my God, every time I talk to you, I feel so relaxed. I could just relax and trust you and blah, blah, blah. And basically just saying that if I want to have sex with them, I just go and take off the clothes and I just do it, And and I just laugh, and stuff. It's like this one sister from one of these islands. One of my friends, we met her, and she was with another sister, another brother, and she was real fine. So I was like, hey, how you doing? What's your name? And blah blah. And I was with my bro. I said, you know what? Let me get this girl's number before my brother start trying to go to just the little I'm a rapper Mac and stuff in there. So I got her number and stuff, and we hung out for a whole day. It was real cool and stuff. Then I took her home, and she wanted me to stay over, and I was like, nah, it's okay, I don't want to stay over, because I wasn't really interested in having sex anyway. But she was bad, man. I'm telling you, from the Caribbean, she was fine, body on her, everything. I was like, dang. And because I took her to different places and stuff, and my Lexus too, right? And so it wasn't she was impressed, because she was telling me, after. Well, anyway, so she wanted me to stay at her house. I said no, and she said no, please. So I stayed. We took a shower and stuff, not together, separate. And I stepped on the floor, and she went in the other room. Then she came out the other room, and she came to me. She said, I bet you're strong. It's me and my and like a lot of guys say I'm a player and everything, you know. I might be, I might not be. I think I'm not, you know. It's just I just know how things work, you know. I just know how things work, so I don't have to be a player, you know, because I know that when women look at me, they think I'm a player, so they just gonna automatically treat me and act the way that they think a player like me would want them to act. So I really don't have to say anything, you know. And so she was like, yeah, you know, I bet you're strong. So, you know, so I was like, yeah, you know, I work out a little bit. No, I didn't say that. I said, nah, you know, I used to work out. I don't work out so much, you know, and everything. And she looked at me and she didn't really say anything. And I said, well, just go to sleep. You know, we hang out some more tomorrow. She's like, all right. You know, and of course my dumb ass rejected her proposition, you know. But I didn't even reject it. I mean, it's not that I rejected it. I just totally didn't catch what she was saying. You know, because I've been in Japan so long, and, you know, you strong, you know, like, okay, what does she mean I'm strong? You know, that's exactly what I'm like, why she say I'm strong, you know? It's funny, though. And so, it took, like, I ain't gonna lie, maybe about a year later I thought about it, and I was like, oh my God. But the whole thing was, I mean, it wasn't that, the whole thing was I just really wasn't sexually interested in her and stuff like that, you know. But she was fine though, and we went out. I didn't touch her. Then we went out a couple of times, and then met them at some clubs, her and her friends and stuff. And then she ended up, you know, because she said she liked those Middle Eastern guys or something like that, and she was dating some, and they got money, you know. So, you know, it wasn't, my Lexus didn't really have anything to do with it, or she knew I wasn't that rich. I'm not richer than them guys, you know, importing cars. And so she been with people with millions and billions of dollars and stuff. You know, she knows those type of people. And she knows I don't have that, especially when I'm just doing English. So I really don't understand what it was that about me that attracted her. And she was tall, you know, and about maybe close to my height. So usually when a girl is kind of tall, she like guys that's like another foot taller than her, you know, that she can feel protected and stuff, you know. So, but she was telling me a lot of guys that she was dating out there. Some of them were shorter than her, but some were tall. But I don't know. Like I said, I just totally missed it, you know. But like I said, I understand a lot of things, but I understand the game. But there's another part of nature that I understand even more, and then I'm just not this out there saying, oh, I want to have sex with this girl. I don't know. I mean, I like sex and everything, but if I go 3 days without sex or a couple of days without sex, I just totally forget, you know. And then if I do want to have sex with a girl, then my mind goes through all these thinking all this stuff, and by the time I come to some conclusion, I just turn myself off and stuff, you know. So for me, it has to happen like within 5 to 15 minutes, otherwise, you know, it's not happening and stuff like that. But that's just me, you know. So do you want to be like me, you know, where a girl say, hey, you know, I bet you're strong, and you know, she's in her nightgown, you know, body see through her clothes, panties, everything, G-strings, everything. I'm like, oh my God, you know, I'm looking at her, I was like, wow, you know. But I just never thought about sex, because I was thinking if she wanted to have sex, then we would have to take a shower together, because I was in her bathroom, I think I was shaving or brushing my teeth or something, and then she came in with her what you call it, so I'm gonna get in the shower, and she just jumped in the shower, still in there, you know. You can pretty much not see through, but you can see her shadow. She washing herself, but you know, I just thought of her as a friend, you know, and I never thought of anything other than that. And she did say, oh, I want you to sleep with me, you know, because I want to do it and whatever, then I would have slept with her in the same bed, you know, that's no problem. But I'm 100% sure I wouldn't have had sex with her. So you know, because if there's no interest in it, then, you know, the erection is not happening. And you know, sometimes when I do with some girl and I just lose interest in it, just whoop, and I just stop, you know. But yeah, picking up girls is really nothing to it. I mean, you know, because the woman, you know, she's gonna see you, and when she's staring, that right there is enough for you to be able to be intelligent enough to say, hey, you know, this woman is interested in me, let me go on and talk to her, you know. And if she's staring at you, then, you know, I'm telling you, you know, maybe 8 out of 10 times you know, walk over. She's saying, hey, how you doing? What you doing? Come on, let's go, you know, to my place and, you know, have some drinks and, you know, have, you know, cuddle together, you know, whatever you want to say. And some women, if they liking you, they gonna say okay, because that's what they just thought about, you know. But guys like, nah, you know, I like you, you know, let's go to lunch next week. And then you go to lunch, and then after that, say, oh, you know, you get a number, and I'll call you in about 3 months, and then blah blah blah. It's like on this video I have called on GS 350 JPN and 3 PUAs. I'm gonna put that up on my what you call it again, on my Facebook. But it was funny though, you know. But yeah, you don't need instructions to talk to women. Just talk, and you know, which basically what you need to do is you need to talk to like the women in your neighborhoods who you guys kind of disrespect or don't like because they act a certain way. Actually, you need to go and talk to those women, because those are probably, especially if they're like emotionally active, I mean hyper and stuff, like you see these women out in the streets fighting each other, you know, those women, those are the ones you want to get with, because when they use that energy in bed, boy, you gonna be like, and then you meet some of these women, you know, so even these Japanese women too, you know, because you know that what is that called, the adrenaline make anybody strong, you know, and that adrenaline get to rushing through them with them hormones going in there, making it feel good. These little girls say, oh, these little women, that short statured women, man, they'll put it on you. You like, oh my God, you know. And so when they got that energy, so a lot of these women run around here fighting and stuff. You guys need to get with them, you know, and you know, exercise with them, wrestle with them, and stuff like that, and get to knowing them, seeing and talking to them, and you'd be surprised. You're like, oh my God, this is the woman that I've been looking for all my life, you know. And another thing is like, because like a lot of people think a lot of these women really don't show any intelligence and stuff like that. Intelligence is innate, so it's like if you see a cliff and you don't walk off of it because you are going, you know, you're going to fall and kill yourself. That's intelligence, okay. But when you're talking about intellectual intelligence, what is it? Let me think. Intellectual knowledge or whatever, book smarts or whatever like that. Well, that stuff is just, you just gotta learn vocabulary. I mean, you know, if you read a book, 10,000 page book on quantum physics in the other realm or whatever, then and if you read it 10,000 pages, you understood the vocabulary in all the books. I mean, every word. And if you understood the meanings of all the words in the book, then what part of the book would you not completely understand? And it would be no part that you wouldn't completely understand. So all of us are lacking only because of definition, and that's it. So you talk to the women, you'd be surprised, you know. You say, hey, you know, you got all that energy, why don't you put on a mini skirt, you know, look sexy, you know, throw some thongs on, whatever, and put your high heels, and let's just go to a club and dance. And then after the club, we go someplace, the two of us, get our wine on, dance some more and stuff, you know, and that's used all that energy on each other, you know. And you know, and I said that a few times to some women, they just start laughing, you know, because it's funny and it's true, you know. So I mean, you know, you already know what to do, you know. I mean, really, you already know what to do. It's just that you just think too much. Stop thinking, you know. Just say, hey, you know, walk to a girl, say, hey, I like you, tell me what do you want, what would you do with me? Just ask her, you know, I should do that too. Excuse me, what would you do with me? And they're like, oh, you know, I never really thought of it because I don't know you. I said, okay, my name's Ralph. You know, you know. You're like, well, you know, if you're this kind of person, you know, I'm that kind of person. Well, then I would do this. And, you know, and it's funny because all you got to do is just give women, you know, just like you give guys, you know, like me, you know, I'm running off at the mouth, you know, 53-minute video so far talking about telling guys how to talk about women, blah, 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 and all this talking and stuff. But, you know, you let somebody talk, you know, they'll let loose, and let all that energy out, you know, and they get all horny and all that stuff, and then when they finish, they're all huffing and puffing, and, oh, I didn't mean to talk to you so long. All right, you know, I don't mind, you know, you really, you know, you're so nice, you know, I like people like you. I said, yeah, it's my turn now, let me talk to you. You know, what you gotta say? I ain't gonna say anything, I'm gonna do something, you know, I'm joking. But anyway, I'm out, peace.